All right, what up, everybody? So basically, this video is gonna be kind of might be like kind of repeat for some of you. Or not repeat, but um, we kind of wanted to address some questions that we keep getting over and over from people. And one of the comments we got on our last upward video was from an old acquaintance that I knew years ago, who goes by GM or Calm Down is his YouTube. I'll post a link in his or in the description of his channel if you want to go check out his stuff. I agree with him on like quite a bit of stuff. And oh, by the way, I have Jason with me. What up, Jason? Sorry. Didn't mean
What's
to
up?
ignore you there in the beginning.
No
Um,
problem.
So, we're just going to go through his questions and answer them piece by piece, like breaking it down, because obviously he's had a misinterpretation of upward, what makes us think that the earth is moving upward, and just go by line and explain it to him in a way that, there's really no way that you wouldn't be able to understand after we explain it with the visuals and everything else. So I'm just gonna start off by playing his video because he did a couple live streams on this. I guess he did one 7 months ago or so, which I'll play because he did a live stream yesterday. Also, I emailed him or not emailed him. I commented on his videos and told him, if you want to talk, just let me know. I haven't heard back from him. It's been since Thursday or Friday or something. So I don't know if I'm gonna hear back from him because he did a live stream, you know, the night before last and like, still brought it up and, kind of mentioned or played his old video with Nat and or not with him, but talking about him. So basically, from the vibe that I'm getting, I don't think he wants to talk to me about it now. So I don't know. He said he wanted to, but now it seems like he's avoiding. So we'll see. Anyways, I'll just get into it and play it, and you guys can make up your own mind on everything.
Yeah, it's just a waste of time, man. And that's what Dell is pushing, and that's what Levelhead William is pushing, and I guess Rusted Soul is pushing, but I don't know. But she has arguments with those two, so I don't understand it, man. I would like to talk to Rusted Soul just to like clarify this, because those other people are just shills and they're a waste of time. I know that she's like a real person. We could have like a real conversation, and those other fools would just want to argue about some stupid fucking thing. So anyway, I think it's stupid as fuck to think that we are moving up. It's what the Flat Earth Society in Canada and Leo Ferrari pushed in the 80s and 70s too, I think. And it's some shit ass bullshit, man. That's all. They're saying, or like Rusted Soul is saying in a video I listened to, that accelerometers show at rest this free fall speed, meaning that we are accelerating up, right? The Earth is rising. uh, and then mainstream science is telling you, oh, this fucking accelerometer is measuring gravity. But if that were the case, man, they would have won a Nobel Peace Prize. That would have been news. You would have learned that in school, right? It wouldn't like it doesn't measure gravity.
So when I first played this for Jason, he was like, I didn't even register that he said Nobel Peace Prize, but Jason was like, he just said Nobel Peace Prize. I think he meant just Nobel Prize. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Good catch. That made me laugh.
Yeah, you discover gravity and you're like
You're saving the world.
yeah, you're saving the world.
Oh, it's hilarious. So I think this is where I can play.
Um,
Oh wait, that's it. So here we go. This is what I was gonna flip over to. Does an accelerometer prove gravity? An accelerometer doesn't prove gravity in a strict or philosophical or scientific sense. Or sorry, in a strict philosophical or scientific sense. Uh, but it proves strong evidence for it. So, I mean, even in his mainstream, what he's claiming that the mainstream says isn't even actually accurate. Um, what an accelerometer reads, hold on, according to mainstream, or according to chat GTP, because I was being lazy. I just typed this in really quick. I mean, it's the same thing as Google, whatever. What an accelerometer measures proper acceleration, the acceleration relative to free fall. For example, when you hold a phone still in your hand, the accelerometer reads 9.8 meters squared upward, even though, hold on a second, let's go to the next thing. Even though it's not moving. This is because the phone is being pushed against gravity by your hand. So obviously you can interpret what the measurement, you know, if the globe believers want to interpret the 9.8 as gravity, that's fine, but technically according to their own shit, it doesn't actually prove gravity. Um, like GM is misunderstanding that for the first thing that he's saying, so guess we can move on from that unless did you want to add anything to what he said so far?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where he goes with this. I don't. And I think he needs like a base understanding of where the rising Earth people are coming from. It seems like he's way off on what he thinks, but basically what we're saying is what the what the mainstream globe heliocentric model claims is there's 9.8 meters per second acceleration downward whenever an item is dropped or whatever, and that is not detected at all. No, I mean, we can go into what's required for acceleration, and that's force. Force is required for acceleration. And so if you drop something, that means there should be a force that is causing that acceleration, and that has never been detected or measured in anything in free fall. There's no forces measured in free fall, and that's what we're arguing against. And then what is measured is the force coming from the ground, the upward vector coming from the ground, and that can be measured, demonstrated. I guess that's the basis for it, and we can see what he says from here and maybe answer some more questions.
Work. Sounds good. That was wonderfully said.
I think this rising earth shit is really stupid, man. I mean, I mean, okay. So the evidence apparently is that an accelerometer at rest shows that we're moving up, right? That's what I've heard.
Now this is an accelerometer. It's a 3-axis.
Well, that's really loud. Sorry, let me turn this down a 10. His volume on every single one of his videos, I have to turn his volume up really loud. It's just like Dell stuff, like you can barely hear him, and it's like, and then he'll play a video, and the video is like super loud. But this is my video that I found of I think later on he goes into like talking about like analog accelerometers and stuff, and asking about those and if those exist and whatever. So I just thought this would be a good video to play showing one of them.
Plus or minus 3G accelerometer. And it's available on this breakout board, which you could get online. It's pretty inexpensive. And the accelerometer is made by Analog Devices. It's an ADXL335B. Now with this accelerometer, you could do some tilt sensing, motion detection, shock, vibration, impact detection. It runs on 3.3 volts, but there's a regulator on board right here, so you can run it on 5 volts. And hookup is pretty simple. There's only 5 pins. You look on the back. See, the top pin is your VCC, that's your plus 5 volts input, and your bottom pin is your ground. Then you have the 3 outputs, the 3 axes outputs, so your X, Y, and Z. So if you look at the front, so your X axis will be in this direction, your Y axis in this direction, and your Z axis is actually right through the board. Now I've made a few videos on accelerometers, and I've interfaced them to the Arduino Nano, but in this video, we're going to interface it to a non-microcontroller circuit. So you don't need to do any coding. So if you're a beginner and you're not into coding yet on an Arduino platform or Raspberry Pi, we're actually going to hook this up to a non-microcontroller interface, and it will let you experiment with an accelerometer.
Okay, here's the data sheet for the ADXL335
servo, but without using a microcontroller or writing any code.
So here's the circuit completely built.
What we're doing is we're taking the square output of this accelerometer, making it an analog voltage, and using it to control the servo through the 555 timer chip. This MX2125 is a MEMSIC dual-axis accelerometer available from Parallax. I recommend reviewing the datasheet.
Okay, so basically, um, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I was talking about bubbles. So if that's too complicated for him because he's made comments, I guess I didn't play his whole thing yet, but he's, made comments about, everything is computerized and you can program the computer, so they're just programming in that that, you know, measurement or whatever that supposedly, you know, gravity goes off of or whatever. So I tried in my comment to him back to him brought up that you don't need to use computers at all. You can use a water bottle. You can use you can look at a flame and how when you move a flame up and down like on a candle, it shows you, and like side to side, it shows you which direction the force is coming from. Um, and he misunderstands the whole water bottle claim. Like when he talks about it, he's like, you just throw the water bottle up in the sky and that tells you what. Like he doesn't understand it. So we're just gonna go over a little bit and play some of the videos of the water bottle stuff so he understands when the force is being pushed behind it, like where the bubble is going, and I'll just play it and you'll see. Oh, and this is just me pointing out that clouds are flat on the bottom, and same with the bubbles. When they rise, they're flat on the bottom. So, pictures for you. And there's a rising bubble that I found from the ocean that I thought looked pretty cool. Pretty big bubble. I was supposed to take the audio out of whatever. It just sounds like bubbles. Nice relaxing bubble sounds. Okay, so here we go. Here's the motion of the water bottles going this way. I don't want to say up because it's not up or down, but it is on your screen, I guess. So, and then you can see where the bubble goes based off of where the push is coming from. You know what I mean? And you can see also the bubble gets flat on the bottom once it starts going up. Like you see it like right there. It's like, I mean, there's movement and bumpiness that's going over also, so that's going to affect the shape of the bubble. It's not going to be perfectly like a dome, but I got like a little screenshot of here's the bubble and the arrow going this way and the bubble's flat on this side. So I'm trying to compare like bubble, cloud, you know, I don't know. To
Yeah,
me, this
and
makes sense. Sorry, what were you saying?
yeah, and no, and it's basically just showing buoyancy, just showing the direction, that an air bubble moves in a liquid like that. And just like on the ground, when we see a water bottle, the air's on the top and the water's on the bottom. That's the density gradient, and the only way to cause a density gradient is with an acceleration of a container like that with different materials in it. And the buoyancy, there's no way to cause buoyancy opposite of the direction of acceleration, and that's what the mainstream tries to tell us. They try to tell us that gravity is forcing everything down, accelerating everything down, but then buoyancy, a helium balloon goes up because of buoyancy. No, that's it doesn't work like that. It's never
Right.
been demonstrated, ever. So
Awesome. Yeah, you sound way better at trying to explain it. I'm like, it's obvious. Look at the bubble. You break it down way better than I do, so thank you for that. And this, I know we've showed this before in our last video, but I'm going to show it again because obviously he didn't see the phone accelerometer bit, and it's pretty short, so.
Phone with an accelerometer app and attached it to a camera. Here are the axes of this setup, X, Y, and Z. When I accelerate the system in the positive direction along an axis, I get a positive acceleration reading in that direction. Sitting on a surface, it says that it's accelerating at 1 g, 9.8 meters per second squared. Yet, unlike a car speeding up, it isn't going anywhere. Now let's see what happens when I drop it. It registers 0 acceleration as it's falling. Newton's second law of motion says that force equals mass times acceleration. So, if the acceleration measurement is 0, then any measurable forces acting on the phone must also be 0. Gravity must not be a force that causes the phone to fall to the floor. Now,
And I didn't really know what that accelerometer is, and then I learned that it's like they have that shit in your phones. There's many different types, right? But anyway, just think about this logically. If the Earth was rising, if we're all just rising, right? When you look at the sun or the moon or whatever, the sun would be coming down if we were rising towards it. It's not. It goes straight across the sky. Where I live, it goes straight across the sky. So it's just silly nonsense. And then the stars at night would not make the trails that they make. They would just be going down towards us, right? If we were accelerating up.
So apparently it's not too far-fetched to think that we're in an enclosed system. There could be an infinite ceiling or dome or whatever you want to call it. I think he's more of like an infinite ceiling guy, because he's talked crap about the dome before. So, and you'll hear that here in a minute. I'll play it, but so that's not too far-fetched. But it is too far-fetched to think that that enclosed system is moving up as a whole, not that we would just fly through the stars. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't know. To me, like, if you're entertaining any of this stuff, like, I feel like this is basic 101, like thinking, like, okay, obviously, it's a whole
Uh,
system moving up together,
right.
in my opinion, but we
Yeah,
can't prove it.
it would definitely be really retarded to think that, we're moving up separate from the sun and we're actually accelerating up towards the sun and all the luminaries or whatever's in the sky isn't accelerating up also. That
Yeah,
would be retarded.
yeah, it would be because he's right. We would observe, like the stars we'd have different stars. We'd be flying through shit. Like that doesn't even make any sense. Like the fact that he thinks that that's something that we believe is like it's insulting. That, like he thinks we're that dumb that we're like, yeah, it's just. But then again, if his only interpretation of Upward Earth is from that shilly 90s video, which I'm gonna get into, we'll play that for you guys, the clip of it's I think it's only like maybe 20 minutes long or something in total, and the very end there's only like a minute or two where they talk about Upward Earth. But that's basically how they describe Upward Earth as going up and down, and you'll hear it in a minute. It is stupid, and um, yeah, we'll just keep playing this.
So, just the whole. That's just my opinion, man. I just think that alone is just crushes that fucking stupid idea. And also, I don't know if a lot of these people that claim to be flat earthers or whatever the fuck they claim to be, rising earthers or whatever. But most people in this whole genre, scene, whatever, movement, whatever you want to call it, very few people know who the fuck Leo Ferrari is, and like the significance of Leo Ferrari, and the Flat Earth Society in Canada. So the Flat Earth Society in Canada was trolling flat earthers, acting like they were flat earthers or proponents of flat earthers, but really it was a mainstream science, and they acted like they were flat earthers until they made this mockumentary, and then it was exposed that it was a mockumentary, and that was in the 80s. It's called In Search of the Edge or some shit like that, and like I have like 2 or 3 videos covering it. So right off the bat, it should be an alarm to people that know the history of flat Earth, which is hardly anyone. That they're pushing some old bullshit. That, you know what I mean? So anyway, I don't really have any good argument, because I haven't really looked. I don't understand. Like, there's all these new flat earthers, right? And some of the shit they say seems legit. Other stuff, I'm not really understanding it or getting it and shit. I'm talking about the Aether cosmology group of people, right? One thing is they continue, right? Globebusters show, as far as I know, right? They're continuing Globebusters show, and we know that Bob Nodell was a shill, and he worked for the Denver Police Forensics Department, and not just because he's a cop, but that's just the truth, you know. He pushed a lot of nonsense, a lot of bullshit. They had that one video with the alien in the fucking bushes, Bailu or whatever, and then you know, they just came back later and said, oh yeah, we had that one wrong. They had a bunch of shit wrong. But these people are saying that he got this ring gyro laser, and he actually did show motion, right? And that's supposed to be like the aether or whatever. I thought that's what I heard. I don't know, man. I could have it all wrong. I'm not that invested into it. I just see it, and I just see that to me, it looks like just a waste of time. That part of it. But the other stuff these people talk about is like land surveying and latitude and longitude. I'm on board with all the shit that they're saying about that. It's just aether. I'm not into it. I don't fully understand it. I don't see the significance of a lot of shit that people say. But anyway, so I asked the Terminators, you know, ChatGPT, to see if
It makes me laugh that he calls ChatGPT the Terminators. But anyways, so I'll
they
keep
could
playing.
explain what an accelerometer is really doing. Just see what the mainstream Terminators have to say. I'm not saying this is it, but I just want to show this. That's all. Not that I believe it. Not that I believe anything. But I mean, the argument is that this accelerometer is showing that we're moving up. So we're moving up. Forget everything else that you see in the world. Forget if we were moving up, everything in the sky would be coming closer to us all the time. You know what I'm saying? So unless I guess you're saying there's a dome over us or something, and that's just, and then, you know, that's like what the Globers say.
Spinning
like
around.
That's what the Globers say. So what, there's no flat earthers that say there's a dome? Like, I think that I've met more flat earthers that talk about the firmament and the dome and being in an enclosed system than like anybody else. Like, I don't know. This is the clip from the movie In Search of the Edge from 1990. It's, you know, I'm not going to show the whole thing. I'm just going to show the clip where he talks about Upward, which is, this is where I think he's getting his information from. But the funny thing is that he claims that this is the Shill documentary, which it is. I even when you look it up on Wiki, it talks about how it was I forget the exact term that they used, but it was like a mockumentary or whatever. And so it's not like anybody was like, it was a joke to begin with. um and the whole video is about flat earth, and there's maybe 1 or 2 minutes about upward earth. So upward earth is a you know, psyop because it was in this documentary, but the documentary is literally about flat earth. So like with that reasoning, you would have to also put flat earth in the same category because it was in this mockumentary, you know. If you're like using his logic or whatever. um, but yeah, did you want to say anything to this, or you want me to just play this?
No, just play it. It's funny.
Okay.
Around this way and going around, goes up and down. Now, when the Earth is up here, and this is the sun, no rays, dark. When the Earth is down here, daylight. When the Earth is here relative to the sun, and it's going up, sunset, into night. Reaches the top of its path, comes back down again, and sunrise.
To get the correct measurement.
Okay. And then, so after that chilly thing, I playing a clip of the Ether guys talking about a little bit more in detail about Bob's. You can listen to this whole thing if you want. Email me or whatever. I'll send you the whole. I only pulled out a clip of this, but the whole conversation is pretty interesting, you know, about this, and I just pulled out this one little part. So, just to educate him a little bit, because he claims, you know, "Oh, I don't know much about what Bob was claiming or the gyroscope or the, you know, he brings up Michelson Morley, but then just says he doesn't really know, and it's you know, BS. Like he compares Michelson Morley to Cavendish, which to me can't, they're not comparable. Like, but whatever. Anyways, I'm just gonna play this really quick, and you
But
can hear it.
they were supposed to be aligning it to the north, and the guy that was in charge of doing that was he used the decal sticker on it to establish, you know, the the orientation of it, and the decal sticker was had no it wasn't related to the position of how it should be aligned to be aligned with true north. So they were like completely off on that. And yeah, the data there was just not really usable and doesn't prove anything either way. So we don't use Bob's stuff. But yeah, the media, obviously took that and told everyone, oh, flat earther confirms, ball rotate and all these things. And it's like, well, let's assume that's true, right? If can a 15 degree per hour measurement tell you if the earth is rotating or if the sky is translating motion down to you through some, ether mechanic, right? Which is our which is which is our position. And measurements fall under kinematics. They do not tell you causal mechanisms. Now, the public doesn't really know much about any of that, and it doesn't so when they hear, earth ball rotate measurement, they're like, oh yeah, I mean, obviously, right? But when you break it down and you're honest about it, all measurements are kinematics. They could be like, if they really wanted to, they could have swooped up Dayton Miller's measurements and just said, oh, you know what, for XYZ reason, the ether is just moving slower on the surface of the earth. But they could do that, but then they would lose power of the constancy of C to use it as a yardstick for astronomy, and you really need that yardstick. Because
So basically, I agree with him about Bob being a shill and an agent. I personally think he faked his death. I don't think he even actually died. I think he just retired and literally trained Witsit and gave him his computer and that whole thing and set him up to be the next whatever to inherit his flat Earth nonsense. Not saying flat Earth is nonsense, but his Globebusters nonsense, whatever. Which is crazy that now Colin and like the Ether guys are taking over that apparently because I guess Witsit's like doesn't want it or whatever. It's too much for him. He's got too many small businesses going and too much too many products to push apparently or whatever he claims he does. But that's a whole different topic. So I mean I will agree with him like on the whole Bob being a shill. Bob was a cop. Bob lied about being an engineer. He lied about being a pilot. I think he did fly single engine something back in the 70s or something. In like I think the Air Force or something he was in. And but it had been since the 70s since he had flown. But the way that he portrayed himself, back in 2016, 17, was that, all of that was true. And when both Globers and Flat Earthers actually united on this and started doing deep dives on him and what he's claiming and started calling him out and playing his own audio back to him, all of a sudden everything from Goldbusters disappeared. All their stuff was gone. You could, they deleted everything. Jaren deleted everything. Like they've been running the same psyop over and over on the new people that are coming in. They're just unaware of the grifts and I think the gyroscope thing was like a whole from the beginning, they said they were going to buy the gyroscope and they were trying to raise enough money to buy it. And in the end, he ended up just renting it for like a couple days or whatever. And it was way cheaper. But they raised enough money to buy it. So what did they do with the rest of that money? Like, I'm pretty sure there's detailed accounts of all of this as it was happening from Flat Earth Reset's channel. If you feel like going and checking it out, I would go look there. But that's a whole other topic. So, um, yeah, anyways, did you want to add anything to what Alan was saying about the gyroscope and um his Bob stuff?
No, that was good.
Okay. Sorry, I feel like and then I just
Sorry.
no, you're good. This is stalagmites and stalactites. To me, this is something that's like a visual representation of um Earth moving up with like these chubby little things on the bottom. I forget which one is stalagmite and which is stalactite. But to me, like,
at a constant
you know,
speed.
yeah.
Most people
that's a visual representation for people who are like, there would be proof. I'm like, what about this? What about, you'd feel it. What about when you wake up in the middle of the night and you feel like you're falling, or you have that, when you're in like REM sleep and you're your body's the most sensitive and you have that feeling of like falling or rising or whatever it is, like you get that tummy tickle feeling. To me, that's evidence of it, but that's another topic. So, this is from Jimmy. What's his name again?
Jimmy,
Jimmy
too
something.
fast for you.
Yes, his channel is Jimmy Too Fast for You, and this was a really good. He has a lot of really good stuff on his channel. That's really, the visuals are good. They go with the, to break it down for people who really still aren't understanding the argument. That's why I wanted to play this here.
People don't seem to understand what 9.8 meters per second squared actually means. So what does it mean? The 9.8 meters per second part of it represents a speed or velocity. Instead of the familiar miles per hour, we have meters per second. But meters per second would describe constant speed or velocity, and we are talking about acceleration, which is increasing velocity, which is why we have the squared part. I think many people seem to be confused with the squared part and what that means. What the squared part means is that if there is no force to slow it down, an object accelerating at 9.8 meters per second squared will gain 9.8 meters per second velocity for every second that passes. So, if you start at stationary or zero, and you accelerate at 9.8 meters per second squared, then after 1 second you would now be traveling at 9.8 meters per second. Then after another second has passed, you would be traveling at 19.6 meters per second. It simply means that as each second passes, your speed will increase by 9.8 meters per second. This acceleration is constant and linear. As you can see from the graph, your speed or velocity is constantly increasing, but the rate of acceleration stays exactly the same, which is why your weight stays the same. If you increase the rate of acceleration, your weight would increase. But at a constant 9.8 meters per second squared, your weight stays the same. So what we have is the Earth, the cliff, and the man, all accelerating upwards together at the same rate, and they are all going faster and faster upwards as each second goes by. And it does not matter how fast Earth is rising, because everything in the reference frame is going the same speed. But because you cannot see outside the reference frame, and because everything inside the reference frame is accelerating at the same rate, everything appears stationary. Now, if the man steps off the cliff, at that precise moment, both the man and the cliff are both at the exact same speed. It doesn't matter if that speed is 1 million miles an hour or a gazillion miles per hour, they are both the same. Then the man stops accelerating because the cliff is no longer pushing him. The man just carries on going up at that speed, be it 1 million, 1 gazillion, or whatever the speed was that the reference frame was traveling at the moment he stepped off. Then the cliff carries on accelerating at 9.8 meters per second squared. So after 1 second, the cliff is going 9.8 meters per second faster than the man. After 2 seconds, the cliff is going 19.6 meters per second faster, and so on until the man hits the water. It looks like the man is accelerating downward from inside the reference frame, but it's the cliff pulling away from the man. The speed that is increasing is the entire reference frame going upwards faster and faster. But the rate of acceleration is always the same. So if the man jumps off the cliff again next week, the whole reference frame will be going faster by then. But the man will appear to fall exactly the same, because the rate of acceleration is always the same and does not change up or down. Almost without question, those who deny the globe theory also deny the theory of gravity, or at least in the way it is taught in schools. A significant percentage of flat earthers believe that gravity is merely the effects of density and buoyancy. They believe things simply go up or down because they are trying to find their natural place in the density gradient. Without deeper consideration, this seems plausible. But just knowing that things go up or down due to their relative density doesn't explain why we have the up and down vector in the first place. Nor does it explain why we have pressure and density gradients. If we take a tank of water, for example, all the water in the tank is the same density. that water is already at equilibrium. So none of the water should be pushing up or down due to any buoyant forces. Therefore, if density and buoyancy were the only factor at play, there will be no increased water pressure the deeper you go because nothing above should be pushing down on anything below. Things displace due to their relative density. But the motion of relative density disequilibrium is not self-causing. It must be the effect of an exterior force. Upwards rising Earth is another theory to explain gravity, but also to explain the vector, and explain the formation of density and pressure gradients. I would like to take this moment to add my disclaimer. I feel quite certain that we do not live on a spinning ball because the globe theory is scientifically impossible. But I think that any claims made beyond that are mostly conjecture. I know how little I truly know, and therefore I am not trying to make any claims. Unlike others who have a somewhat vested interest in these topics, I genuinely have no bias whatsoever. I am just a regular person. I'm not a content creator or an expert of any kind. All I can do is keep an unbiased open mind and try to use common sense and logical reasoning to examine the things which can be physically tested and verified by all, in order to try to come to some kind of conclusions about what may or may not be true. The deeper I delve into the nature of our reality, the more I wonder if the natural laws of physics even apply. Our existence could be supernatural and the workings could well be beyond our comprehension. And so, back to the rising Earth theory. There are many people in the flat Earth community who are opposed to the possibility that Earth could be rising. They have been regurgitating for 10 years or more, and this has become one of their core beliefs. For others, it contradicts their religious beliefs and their interpretation of biblical scriptures. Although the Earth is clearly not spinning, it is, in theory, possible that the Earth could be rising upwards. Rising Earth theory has gained traction and a strong borderline fanatical following. Let's have a quick look at why this is the case. Firstly, by utilizing motion, it is possible to take an enclosed system and recreate the vector in any direction you wish. And by utilizing motion, you can also recreate the density and pressure gradients. This gives the theory credence because these phenomena cannot be reproduced in any other way. Secondly, there are a variety of free-fall demonstrations which show that the effects of density and buoyancy and also pressure gradients instantly disappear when an object detaches from the Earth and goes into free fall. These demonstrations appear to indicate that the Earth is moving upwards and that being connected to the rising Earth is the cause for both the effects of density and buoyancy, and also the pressure and density gradients we have here on Earth. Only acceleration or deceleration create an inertial resistance. An object traveling at a constant linear velocity, without any forces being applied to it, has no inertial resistance, and is in effect indistinguishable from being stationary. So, with that refresher out the way, let's take a look at scenario number 2, which is Earth accelerating upwards at 9.8 meters per second squared. If this were truly the case, then over time Earth would be traveling at an inconceivable speed, just getting faster and faster, which seems hard to believe, but unfortunately nobody can verify what is outside of the reference frame or what could be pushing the Earth upwards, and so for this scenario and also for the constant motion scenario, we have to just discuss what is plausible from inside the reference frame and not confuse the discussion by worrying about things which cannot be known. If the Earth is accelerating upwards and Newton's laws of motion are correct, then it would actually explain everything perfectly. I am not saying that Earth is definitively accelerating upwards. How could I know that? But I am saying it is plausible, and there are no ways to discredit the possibility from inside the reference frame. Earth accelerating upwards would match and explain what we experience. The acceleration would create the pressure and density gradients in our weight. Then, if we look at free fall, we see that the moment an item is released and the force is removed, it is no longer being accelerated by the Earth, and so it continues to travel at the velocity it was traveling at when released, while the Earth continues to accelerate up at 9.8 meters per second squared until the object hits the ground. This would match perfectly what we see in reality. And because the dropped item in free fall is moving at a constant velocity, It explains why the accelerometer reads 0 in free fall, and why there is no displacement in the bottle. With Earth accelerating upwards, everything adds up fine. Such experiments like the bullet dropped versus bullet fired horizontally, and the bowling ball and feather dropped in a vacuum chamber all work perfectly. Dell's only justification for denying upwards acceleration is that he claims acceleration would mean your weight would constantly increase. This may be the case in Dell's imagination or using in which he says the Earth is rising at a constant velocity, and the item in free fall is decelerating at a rate of 9.8 meters per second squared. Claiming that objects in free fall are decelerating cannot be true for the exact same reason Dell says that objects in free fall cannot be accelerating. That is because acceleration and deceleration are the same thing. They are changes in velocity. An accelerometer will detect any change in velocity, and any change in velocity will cause the water bottle to displace. The water bottle will displace under either acceleration or deceleration 100% of the time. Every time. If there is no displacement, there is no deceleration.
Okay, so another thing I forgot to mention with the water bottle thing is that um when a water bottle is just sitting on the ground, like if we weren't accelerating up and it was a constant, then the bubble would be in the middle of the water bottle, right? Am I wrong? I think that that's what we talked about before, that it's because the bubble, the air bubble, is at the top of the bottle that it shows
Right.
that
Or
the
it would
push
just
is coming from underneath.
right. Well, and I don't know that the bubble would be in the middle, but it would just be, it could just be floating around because there's no pressure, there's no force applied if you're moving at a constant velocity. So,
I
and
guess
the
I
only way to make the pressure gradient work, well, I mean, it's the same thing as like in free fall. If you like throw like water up in the air, and as it's in free fall, it kind of just forms little spheres because they just coalesces together, but it's like there's no forces acting on it.
Yeah. I guess I was thinking of it like with the flame, when the flame is in free fall or going whatever going down, it creates like a sphere and kind
Right.
of,
It just goes into like a little round
yeah,
little sphere.
yeah, and then when you like put it up, you see the flame go in the direction that the force is coming from. So like
Correct.
the same with the water bottle, where just a water bottle at rest shows you there's an acceleration, that you don't need a computer program or anything to show, to like, if you just study and observe how water and air work together and where when it's pushed a certain direction, what happens, and then you just put the water bottle just on the ground, it shows you that there's an acceleration going up. Otherwise, the air wouldn't be at the top of the bottle, in my opinion. I don't know. But anyways,
Right.
w- um, Jimmy does such good videos. His stuff is, I know that like, it sounds so proper, and like it sounds so like like a professional BBC guy or something made it, and I love
Right.
that. I love that about him. He spends a lot of time on them, but like, he's never asked for money. I think that's part of the thing that also drew me to Upward, is that in every other like section of Flat Earth, there's always people asking for money, donations. Even the smaller channels now, they're just like even what's his name last week that we shared, had his like donate here at the end of his video. I'm like, God
Oh,
damn it,
Brian.
Brian. Yeah. Um, and that was something that I was like, this seems legit. These people aren't, I mean, I know Dell used to ask for money back in the day, but I haven't seen him, recently at least asking for money. And, William is like teetering on that, so once he starts asking for money, then that's it. He's definitely a show. But anyways, like I do appreciate the time that people put into these videos, and I mean, this makes sense to me, the way that he has the computerized, um, animations showing stuff, and then showing real life demonstrations next to that. Like, that's demonstration is king. You can't just, get by showing just, make believe demonstrations all the time. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, we'll keep going because there's a lot more. claims and stuff that GM has said that I feel like other people also say. So it's good to hear all of it in full. Unless, are you good? Do you need to go do anything, or are you good to keep going?
Yeah, we can keep going.
Okay.
This Nakakita character.
Nakati, what the fuck? So, oh yeah, this
Um,
is the clip from, apparently he was the night before last was streaming his own video from 7 months ago. So that's what this is here.
so I'm just gonna go to his channel real quick. I'm just wondering, how long has this channel been around? It's fairly new. Not that it really matters. Okay, it starts 10 months ago. Okay. Alright. 10 months ago. But let's see live. How far does the live go back? Oldest. 9 months ago. Which doesn't mean shit. Maybe he had another channel. I don't know. But it's interesting that he shows up. I don't know how long this dude's been around. But then there's this other guy, level-headed William, that showed up fairly recently in the last year or year and a half. And all of a sudden they have thousands of subs. And they're just like pushing this narrative, right? And Dell's clicked up with him. And the whole narrative was with Dell is like, he's not the shill, right? He just got a big channel out of nowhere, but he's not the shill. You know what I mean? He wasn't in the Netflix movie, so he's not the shill. Even though
So I just gotta say that if you compare Nachiketch's 2,000 subs to Dell's, what, 27,000 or something subs, like that's a pretty big jump. Like Dell's subs are obviously manufactured just like Glowbusters and all, like, and he, like he now doesn't defend them, but he did back in the day, and he was in all of their chats and was all about the Glowbusters and all those people back in the day. So he may try to fake the front like he wasn't a part of the clique, but he was. So, and I think it's funny that he won't talk about TFE, that's like in its own thing suspect to me, like, but whatever. So I don't think it's really fair of GM to compare Dell to Natch, who has 2,000 subs, which isn't like a ton, you know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
like I get compared to him who's got 300, like I was around 300 or 400 for the past 10 years, and then within a month or so of me putting out a bunch of video, like being actively putting out videos about the TFE stuff, all of a sudden, like I have 1,500 subs now, So what, does that make me automatically a shill because I have almost as many, within like a
Yes,
really
you are
short,
so.
yeah, within a short period of time, like I don't know. I don't really think that that's a fair. If Natch had like 25, like he had the numbers that Dell and Glowbusters and Jaren and all these people had, then I would be agreeing with him on that. But Natch is like,
Well, Natch has 0 subs right now, I think.
yeah, he
Because
doesn't. His
Natch's
channel's
channel is
gone.
gone.
Yeah, his channel is gone. If you go and look, his channel's gone. Like he went and got a normal normie job, like which I have nothing but respect for the dude. The fact that he didn't come out asking people for money. He stayed true. He was the only person in that whole clique that actually like seemed like he was after the truth with constant versus accelerating, and the only person that backed us up and said, "Hey, we shouldn't be shunning them the same way that like globe earthers do to flat earthers. Like we should be listening to what they're saying and looking at their demonstrations." And so and the fact that he's like, "Hey, I had to go get a job, like I'm not gonna be streaming anymore because I gotta work and do other stuff," like, and so whatever, like I don't think a shill would be doing shit like that, would be getting a normie job with like an old pickup truck and like not asking people for money, and like because I mean, have you ever seen any of his videos asking for donations? I mean, I didn't watch every single one of his streams, but I don't think that was a thing that he was,
No, I
asking
don't.
for.
I don't remember ever hearing him ask for money, but I also didn't see all of his stuff either.
Yeah. So I mean, based off of what I know from the guy, he to me he doesn't give the same vibe as, you know, as the shills do, who are like, e-begging and whatever. And the fact that like he stood up, there was only three of us in the constant acceleration, and he backed us up the way he did and went against the grain and against what the other upward earthers, like, dude, he's cool in my book, So anyways, I'll keep playing this.
He promoted heavily Eric Dubé, right?
Oh, he's talking about Del Pro promoted heavily Eric Dubé.
Eric Dubé does not live in Thailand. He lives in Maine. Okay. Anyway,
And the funny thing about all of these people, like all of the Eric Dubés and the Mark Sargents and all of these people, the one thing they all have in common is that Flat Earth Society is is a controlled opposition. Like they all don't agree. Like it's just like the United Nations, they all agree that on this one thing, but like they all party together and during the holidays, but then in public they're fighting, but they all happen to agree that this one thing is controlled opposition, which I think is interesting also, and that's for later in the video. That'll make sense why I'm bringing that up. But um
so here's this dude, and I don't watch his show often. I've clicked on it here and there just to check it out. He has this guy True Zetetic on there, who I think, or not True, that's me.
he has a bunch of
That's
stock
hilarious.
accounts. I know, that makes me laugh. He's got a bunch of stock accounts like everybody else, like, like, but
Wait,
anyways,
that's
that
me.
should be. Yeah, wait, that's me.
Zetetic Warrior. I don't think that dude's too bad. I don't think this guy's too bad, except for his.
And I think the Teddick Warrior's worse, like, is less of honest and more shilly than Natch, so that's fucking weird that he's like, and that's
Yeah,
just
Z
my own,
definitely chilly for sure.
right? Anyway, so carry on.
Heavily pushing that the Earth is moving up, based on what, a water bottle thrown in the air and shit. I'm not buying it, bro. You guys fucking came out of nowhere, and you're
So 1 second he's like, you can't use computers and stuff because you can program it, but oh, what, you use a fucking water bottle and that proves it? Like, dude, we're trying to simplify it. You can't program a water bottle, You can't program a fucking bubble in a water bottle. So that's why we're trying to use like really basic, simple things that you yourself can like figure out at home if you care to take 2 minutes to think about it. And I wasn't gonna go in on him because I've known him and I don't have any beef with him, and I actually agree with a lot of stuff that he says and what he thinks and whatever. Um, but like, yeah, I don't know, um to think that this is like purely, I don't know. Sorry, I just totally lost track of what I was saying. Something about I had it and now it's gone. Anyways, I'll just keep playing it. Maybe it'll come back to me. But basically, um I don't know. He just sounds retarded throughout this whole thing, and it makes me feel bad. Like I'm not trying to like pick on like the retarded sounding kid in school or whatever, but like, oh, that's what it was. This was from 7 months ago, so he's had 7 months to look into Upward Earth, and he still has this like very like the same outlook, and that he hasn't like really educated himself on it or looked into it or thought about it much, because after 7 months you'd think you'd have a grasp on the concept a little bit better. But yeah, that was my only point, so I'll keep
pushing the same exact shit of Leo Ferrari. And then I was in their chat saying some shit, and they're like, I don't know who Leo Ferrari is. I'm going to have to look into him. I don't know what the anti-Newtonian is. I have to look into it. Right. You don't know who Leo Ferrari is. Okay. He was the head of the Canadian Flat Earth Society, which was made by mainstream science to clown flat earthers, to make fun of flat earth.
So, and that's also not really fair to claim, like, oh, because you don't know who this shilly person was from the 90s, you're not like a real flat earther, or you're not a real, like, you don't know your shit. And, like, I'll go in a little bit more in a minute to the whole, what's it called? The anti-Newtonian pamphlet. It wasn't a book, it was a pamphlet. And it did come out before Robotham's stuff. Um, but it's I'll just keep playing it and we'll get into that in a minute, but it's funny, you'll see.
They have an actual museum somewhere in Canada. It's still there. So that's why if you say you're from the Flat Earth Society, it's a joke, dude. Any society is a joke. The Universal Zetetic. I'm not saying that Earth isn't flat. I'm just saying the people who claim to be leaders, and like you're coming up and claiming to be one too now.
Yeah, what a great leader who just abandoned everybody and completely like left like took down his channel to go do handle real world shit. That doesn't sound like somebody who's trying to be the leader of anything. It sounds like a real person who's like just trying to like live their life and pay their bills and handle shit and be an adult. So, I don't know, whatever.
You got 2,000 subs already in 11 months. That's amazing, dude. I'm not gonna debate you, and you're gonna have all your friends gang up on me, and you're gonna.
So I think that's the real reason why he's ignoring me now is because he's like, he says it right here. I'm not gonna come in there. I'm not gonna debate you. You have all your friends gang up on me. Like, not that I would get, that Jason would Jason's like the sweetest like guy ever. Like, he's not gonna gang up on anybody. Like, if anybody's ganging up, it would be me for sure. But he did say in one sentence that early in one video right before this that he wanted to talk to me, and now he's clearly avoiding me and so I'm thinking that the same thing applies where he saw that I actually knew my shit and he doesn't know what he's talking about clearly. So why would I mean I don't even know why you'd make a video in the first place. Like if like if you're really not trying to actually learn or you don't know what you're talking about, why would you even make the claims and like fire shots to begin with? Because to me this is like shots fired. Hey, what's up? All right, I got to address this. He's the old homie, so I'll give him the respect of like explaining it to him in a respectful manner. But if he's not won't even talk to me about it, then whatever. I guess I'll just talk to his video.
Have your fucking quasi fucking scientific fucking whatever your proof is that we're moving up. There's no proof that we're moving up, dude. There's only proof that we're stationary. The sun moves, the stars move, everything moves. We don't. But you know how an earthquake feels, especially if you're in California like me. You know how an earthquake feels. But you're telling me I'm
Oop, that doesn't sound stationary. Earthquakes exist. Debunk. No, just joking. I just had to throw that out there.
moving up. I'm constantly moving up. I don't know why things go up and come down, and we will never know. But you think because you throw a bottle in the air and bubbles rise up, like, it's nonsense. It's bullshit. Also, the experiment of the 24-hour sun, whether it's a 24-hour sun or not, I don't give a fuck. Okay? Because I don't even know where this place is. The maps of the world, every single map of the world is bullshit. Okay? And that's been admitted. And
So remember this for later on that he says every single map of the world is bullshit.
there's no way you could prove a map of the world. You can prove city maps, you can prove street maps, but you cannot fly up high in the sky and then see the layout of Earth, of the known continents. You can't do it. You can't go high enough. So there is no way to ever prove it. Only the governments know this, have this information. And probably not all the world governments, only certain ones, you know? So I'm not going to waste my time debating with people who think they know shit, dude. Right off the bat, dude, you lost. I'm not going to waste my time. I don't need to talk to you. You need to talk to me and find out what I'm talking about. You don't know who Leo Ferrari is. You never heard of the Anti-Newtonian. That's the oldest flat earth book. Prove me wrong. Pretty
Pamphlet.
sure it was 18.
It's a pamphlet. And like there has been stuff in text that was written back in supposedly, we can't verify this because it's, whatever whatever that country's called. Method I can't even
Mesopotamia.
thank you. I'm like method I was thank you. And there's, according to the mainstream, and yeah, if you believe history, which, who knows, whatever. But either way, like, I'm pretty sure that, you know, there was stuff written before 1918 about, you know, the nature of the earth and what they think that but and even that book is so um like it's philosophical. It's not there's no scientific experiments. It's all about the Bible. Like if you hear later on he talks about how he's not into religion, religion's a psyop, he's not into maps, right? He just said that, but that's all that this pamphlet talks about. It's like it short. It took 30 minutes for me to read through it. So it's 90% it's biblical, it's theological, there's no demonstrations or scientific analysis. I doubt he even read it because if he did, he'd probably think that it was super cringy for how often they like talk about like biblical stuff and how like it's super um like I understand now why the Robotham thing was, the Robotham book was pushed more than this was as the first whatever because it's not, there's nothing in it, like there's, oh, and there is like a couple diagrams of how the sun moves, but he believes in the ice wall, which GM says he doesn't believe in the ice wall. So, what exactly in this pamphlet did you actually agree with? Is my question to him. Because so far, the religion, the ice wall, the maps, the sun movements, the firmament, all of those things he said that he doesn't believe. So, like, what exactly did you like about the book then, since all of these things you've talked shit about, and that's basically like 99% of the pamphlet is talking about all of that. So, and he also talks about how the Rowbotham's, a Masonic shill, blah blah blah, whatever. I'm sure he is. I'm not denying that, but nobody even knows who wrote this pamphlet. It's an unknown author. So like it could have totally been a Mason. You don't know. Like it's shrouded in secrecy, but like like more like a better book than than Rowbotham's shit because it's by an unknown author. So I don't know. The whole thing is just pretty ridiculous to me. But yeah, I'll keep playing this unless there was anything you wanted to add to that.
No, I'm good with that, but I do have to go.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll keep playing this, and then if you want to jump in later, I'll just hold on one second.
1911.
Oops, I didn't mean to push play. Let me stop the recording for a second because I was thinking. Hold on.
Right.
So I'm just gonna keep recording because basically,
Okay.
like, if you want, if you want
Yeah,
to
no, that's
jump
cool.
in, if you want to jump in, you can. You don't have to, because like obviously I can just keep playing the videos and talking about it. And if people hear background noise of like a shop, then they know that you're actual real person who has a real job. You're not e-begging and asking for money online or any of that crazy shit. You're just like a real
All
person
right.
trying to, whatever. But anyways, thank you for joining me. And I feel bad that you haven't been really
No, you're
talking
good.
much.
Don't.
Just been
It's
playing
okay.
videos. Been playing
It's
videos this
funny
whole
to
time.
listen to.
Yeah, and I still have like, probably another 20 or 30 minutes of going through the Flat Earth Societies, comparing the two, going into that whole thing. So I'll just keep doing my thing, and if you want to jump in, you can. If not, no worries also.
All right, cool.
Long before Robotham. Look into Robotham. Look into Robotham and don't fucking be all defending this guy because he's a flat earther or whatever. Robotham was a scam artist. He was a Freemason. And when you look at the lineage through the years of all these Freemasons, I mean these flat earthers, they seem to be all Freemasons. Doesn't mean they're right or wrong, but it's fucking questionable, right? Like
It sounds like he's having like a battle within, like, wait, it doesn't mean I don't think it's flat earth, but they're all masons and shills, like, and I agree with them. I mean, like Bird, and I can't even think of all the other ones that they all, you know have ties to the military or to some sort of a masonic group or whatever. So but then again, I also, I know people in the real world that are masons and go to the Masonic pub to play pool and drink beer, and they don't know shit about any of this. They have no idea. They're total Glovers. They're not like studying the ancient texts of the original Masonic. Like they have no idea who started the shit they're in. They're just trying to have like a community of people. So I'm not over here like all Masons are bad, but it is kind of a weird coincidence that all of these people happen to that are big in flat Earth stuff happen to have their ties also. So maybe it's true. Maybe there is some good factions and bad factions. I have no idea. Um, but you can't sit there and say, "Oh, he's bad, therefore this pamphlet is good," even though you don't even know who the author is. you know. So yeah, so keep playing.
Yeah, all these shills have connections to Hollywood when you break it down. Math Powerland was on MTV. Um, yeah, you go through the list. All these people are shills, man.
I agree with that. All of the big flat Earth names from YouTube are all, um, they all play fight with each other. They all happen to either be in the military or have their family ties to the military or CIA or um, Hollywood, like Math Powerland. I think even Math has talked about having family that was in the military also. So, yeah, nobody can be trusted. Trust yourself, trust your own instincts, trust your own research, your own common sense. And, if that leads you down a different path that maybe most flat earthers don't go down, like embrace that shit and don't be closed-minded, or do be closed-minded and, you know, like keep being in a cult. I don't know, like whatever.
Every fucking big flat Earth channel. It doesn't mean they don't have some good info. There's some good info here and there. All of them have it, but they're also pushing a bunch of bullshit. I don't spend a lot of time on this. I just click on it once in a while. I look at these flat Earth channels because they ain't talking about nothing. No one's talking. The Witsit people, the Ether people, they're very interesting. I don't understand half of what they're saying. Um, if they're shills, they're the best ones. But
That's the funniest part to me too. Like, clearly has not been paying attention to the TFE stuff. Even if I think this was, I don't know if he's still playing the video, if this is 7 months old, or if this is him talking now, but um, yeah, like Witsit even 7 months ago was pushing his products on people, his dragon blood, blah blah, like constantly e-begging and talking about all this stuff that he has to pay for, and like that's always been a thing from him. That was not like ever since TFE, he all of a sudden needs money and woe is me, I need programs to download the terabytes of information and all that shit. Like, I mean, anybody who listens to my channel probably agrees that Witsit's like the biggest shill of them all. So maybe your shill detector is a little bit faulty, GM. I don't know. Just saying. Look into him a little bit more before you start giving him props.
I don't really understand what they're even saying, man. I don't think the Mickelson Morley shit proves anything one way or another. It's just like the bottle experiment. People, they have these experiments like the Cavendish experiment, and they say this proves this or this doesn't prove that. Well, I say it doesn't do shit. It's some abstract shit that doesn't prove anything to me. Not gonna change the world, so I'm not gonna waste that much time with it, man. I'll just fucking do a live stream here and there, talk some shit. That's about it. But I'm not going on your shit, dude. I don't want to ruin your day. I don't want you to get mad. I don't want you to lose your faith in God. Um, I think we're intelligently designed. I think Christian religion is nonsense. If you can look at it objectively, every religion is nonsense, based on bullshit, set up by rulers. I mean, it's a fairy tale to make you feel good. That's all it is, man. But we were intelligently designed, obviously.
Yeah, I'll agree with him on that. I'm not into religion. I think that all religion as a whole is a psyop designed to um, keep us apart, keep us fighting, keep us, arguing over bullshit. So, I can totally understand that aspect of it. And that's why I'm saying, like, I don't disagree with everything that he's saying. Um, but I also, when there are demonstratable, observable, repeatable, um, things that we can do in the real world, why wouldn't you pay attention to that? Why would you just dismiss it, hand wave dismiss everything that, um, just because you don't feel like looking into it or you don't feel like really studying and trying to understand what's being said. It's just laziness, really, is what it feels like. And, 1 second he says that he wants to have a conversation, and then the next second he's like, you need to listen to what I'm saying. If I'm not into the know-it-alls, but then he himself sounds like he's a know-it-all when it comes to this. So, I don't know. Just keep playing here.
But yeah, I don't believe in no dome. I don't believe in no ice wall. It makes sense to me that it goes on forever. The Earth, you know. whether or not there's more suns or whatever. I don't fucking know. There's no way to know. And then this whole thing about going to fucking the South Pole, um, what they call the South Pole, like the people that are going or whatever, the so-called flat Earth leaders who are just shills. I don't trust them.
Second ago, what's it wasn't a show. Now all of a sudden, I don't know. I'll just keep playing. It's just too funny.
I don't trust them as eyewitnesses. I don't trust anyone, and I wouldn't go myself because it's a fucking setup. Um, but anyway, um, yeah, if you're gonna continue to act like you know and push this fucking thing that the Earth is moving up, then you're a fucking 100% shill, Leo Ferrari shill.
So with that reasoning, anybody who watched the video, anybody who's a flat earther is a Ferrari, whatever his name is, shill then, because the whole video was about flat Earth. So just because it's in that mockumentary, all of a sudden now everybody is by default a shill.
As far as like Witsit and all those people, like I don't know, man. They're kind of like loosely cool with these obvious gatekeepers, but I feel like they have better arguments. Some of it I understand, a lot of it I have no idea. I might as well be listening to a lecture on quantum physics because I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. But some of the shit I do understand. But I think it's unnecessary. For me, it's unnecessary. I see the sun move, dude. End of story. Heliocentric model destroyed. Done. Also, fuck Zetetic Astronomy. Fuck Robotham. Read King's Dethroned. It's the only book worth reading. The Rising Earth Psyop is like, it's for noobs because it's like, you probably saw this video like,
Dude, so he sounds like the total noob here. I'm not gonna lie, like the Rising Earth psyop is been around for I don't know. I mean, I think I don't I can't I looked on the Flat Earth wiki or the Flat Earth Society wiki page and tried to find like, when the first mention is of upward, but it seems to be like, you know, it's because I remember getting, 10 years ago, that was the first thing that I heard everybody agree on across the board was that, that they're shills because they think the earth, that was the main reason, because they think earth is rising, therefore they're shills. And when you look at King's Dethroned, it's funny because I don't think he ever read King's Dethroned because 90% of it is about celestial movements, many of which he apparently misrepresents. He cites sources and makes claims of what other people say that he didn't back up in the book. Um, I'm not saying that everything he's saying is wrong. I'm just saying that there's been some things apparently, like I was reading through some of the comments that people were making about um, him them not being written, um like some of the stuff he was saying, he wasn't citing his sources, so and there wasn't, like, nobody's been able to find what he's claiming they're saying. So yeah, basically it's all sky worshippers, it's if he thinks that a book that King's Dethroned is the best flat earth book when it literally is all about the celestial movements, and supposedly debunking some of them, which, whatever, but others not necessarily debunking. He says that he claims light doesn't bend, which was apparently discovered that it does bend in 1919, and the book was written in 1922. So either he just was unaware of that, or he didn't believe it, or whatever. But that's been, proven now that light does bend. So, um, there's a lot of stuff in that book. It's there's no demonstrations. There's no um, to me, it's like it's a weak sauce. Like I would never like suggest somebody to read that personally, like unless they're in the ether group and they're like, they're way into the celestial movements and this and that, like then yeah, totally go read it and see if you can debunk some stuff. And there might be a later video that I do trying to go into that more because I haven't, I haven't done a deep dive on that. I'm busy. I was busy doing other deep dives this week, so maybe that'll be something I look more into next week. But I just think it's funny that that's, so far the two books that he suggests are the best are one all about the Celestials, which has nothing to do with the Earth, and the pamphlet, which is purely biblical, theological, and not scientific. So yeah, cool story, bro.
It's called In Search of the Edge. It was made in 1990. It was made to clown Flat Earth, but I think like in 2016 or 17, people found this video, and then they thought it was, oh, this is a Flat Earth documentary from 1990, not realizing until I think they watched the whole movie that it was clowning. But I don't know. People have no memory or something.
No, when you look it up, it's written in mainstream Wikipedia pages about that it is a mockumentary, that it was never meant to be like a real, like people didn't think that it was like a real representation of flat Earth. It was a joke.
So anyway, I'm pretty sure part of the video has something to do with the rising Earth. I might be wrong. I'm gonna play the video right now. But also the dude that he's mentioning, when they were first trying to figure out the elevation of mountains, that dude said a bunch of mountains were this high, that high, whatever. Hundreds of years later, they found out all his measurements were wrong. Look into it.
So yeah, that's not surprising, but also, you know, there's just so much um ridiculousness within this guy and what he says, and what he's pushing. Like he hasn't even looked into the books that he's claiming are like, you know the best flat earth books or whatever. It's kind of sad. I'm embarrassed for him, to be honest. Like, poor
So
guy.
far, this movie sucks. It's worse than the.
So this was, him showing the movie. So he talks about this movie. You gotta see this movie. You gotta see this movie. I'm gonna show the movie. So far, this movie sucks. Like as if this is his first time watching it.
Mark Sargent. Clues.
15, but his book emphasized it was only a hypothesis. He further avoided controversy by withholding the book for 13 years, and then by dying on the day it was published. Edmund Halley, the highly esteemed British astronomer...
I never heard that shit before. That's suspect as hell.
See, once again, it sounds like he literally says, I never heard that shit before, but minutes ago he was saying, you gotta watch this. If you don't know who this is, if you haven't seen this, then like you're a retard or whatever. Come on, dude.
Best known
Now. But they're trying to have some type of story with Flat Earth, some type of drama or something. And I feel like that's why there's a whole Earth is rising shit. They gotta have something to talk about. People got burnt out on the debate, so like Nathan Oakley and etc. Those people, quantum race, all them. It's boring. Shit's boring. So the drama now is Earth is rising, and then also the 24-hour sun. Neither of these stories they're meaningless. They're a waste of time. They're a distraction. It's pointless. It's just so you'll watch their channels, so you'll give a fuck about something that doesn't fucking matter. None of it fucking matters. They're all bullshit.
The irony of him saying that and then playing this clip of Joe Rogan next is just, I mean, you can't write this shit. Like, I didn't crop this together. This was just real time, his live stream saying, waste of time, waste of time. Now watch.
I asked my friend, he's a Buddhist monk, right? And I was asking him we were talking about flat Earth. He's like, I never heard that shit. He never heard that shit in his religion. A lot of this shit is just like recently made up graphics put together. Flat Earthers repeat it, and you know what I mean? That's all it is. It's fucking. The Freemasons don't think the Earth is flat. Dude, what the fuck? Since when? Like all this shit is bullshit, dude.
So as far as like Buddhist stuff goes, like from what I've heard, like I never heard like Buddhist people claim that the earth is flat or whatever. The traditional Buddhist map of the world describes Mount Meru at the center, which does seem to correlate with what flat earthers believe, but whatever. According to Buddhist teaching, the Buddha refused to answer questions about the origins of the earth. As a result, Buddhists do not tend to focus on on questions they cannot answer. Rather, the focus is on the concepts of present and how to avoid suffering in the here and now. Nevertheless, Buddhists believe that, as with life, worlds follow a cycle of decay, death, and rebirth.
They don't even know how Rome started. How are they going to know how the Sumerians thought the world was a globe? They don't know how Rome started. Start with that.
Answers. You just want to question every.
So this is the clip from Rogan that he plays right after he literally says all of this is just a waste of time, and yeah,
everything that the, in air quotes, government says.
Exactly.
Who cares? Why are you so angry over that?
It's frustrating.
Why?
Because
I'm not.
the world being flat, because nuclear bombs being fake, because dinosaurs not being real, all those things are crazy. They're a giant waste of time.
For who?
For us. When we're talking
Let's talk about something else.
Okay, but you like talking about those things.
Hey,
It's not about proving gravity with the accelerometers. The 9.8 average isn't. It's not.
so yeah, I just wanted to point out again how funny that is that he played that in a row, said it's just such a waste of time, and then plays a clip of Rogan making fun of him, saying, "Oh, it's a waste of time." Like I mean, I've heard so many people say that to me over the years, and I always respond with like, "Well, it's my time to waste." You know, like you don't have to sit here and talk to me. You don't have to listen to me. If you don't like what I have to say or how I think, then like move along. You know, keep scrolling.
9/8, dude. Contested. The downward movement average isn't a flat Earth argument. It's the interpretation.
So New P's in the chat here telling him it's not about like once again what I said earlier in my message back to him, because he keeps saying that it proves gravity, that you know whatever, and so New P, it's not about proving gravity with the accelerometers. It's 9.8 average isn't. So I'm glad that New P seems to understand the argument actually and is trying to help him understand. But yeah, we'll see.
I don't know what you're saying, dude.
And it couldn't be more like like I don't know what you're saying. It's written out like very clearly. Jesus.
I
understand what he means.
What is he saying, dude?
He says that he calls the what physicists would call gravity force. Our Earthrisers would call it acceleration upwards. Is what this number that things tend to fall down with this acceleration number. He calls it the downwards movement average. Isn't the flat Earth argument really the rising Earth? It's just another interpretation of why do they think we observe what we observe, but he doesn't think it's the genuine explanation.
Like I was saying, if you watch a mainstream video about accelerometers, they're gonna say at rest it is measuring free fall speed, which is basically proving gravity. Because, yeah, dude. But like, what is it? If it's not like, how is it measuring fucking free fall speed when nothing is moving, right? If you have a purely mechanical accelerometer, nothing's moving.
Shit.
Do you know what an accelerometer is?
Yeah, I have one in my phone.
Yeah, they're in phones, they're in planes, they're in different things. But
right,
what they tell us, the mainstream science, is that at rest, it's reading free fall speed, right? And then
right.
it's also proving gravity. So
yeah,
it's probably pre-programmed at rest to read that. You know, that's
right.
all I'm saying. And like, there's a way to.
It's probably pre-programmed to say that. Is a water bottle pre-programmed to show you which direction the bubble is going?
Back engineer a component, and it'll have on there probably in C or C++ language that fucking reading. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's in the calibration manual. You know?
Yeah, but accelerometer reads the acceleration of itself.
Right.
If it's located on your desk, it's not moving. Even according to the official physics, it would be moving if you had no desk and you drop it in a canyon or something. Then it would be moving and accelerating, and that's when it should read acceleration. It shouldn't read.
You see, he doesn't understand that that's the whole point, that when you drop it, it's not accelerating. Like, Jesus.
Acceleration when it's located on your desk. The only way it should work is we're really accelerating and then upwards, and then their theory is correct, man. Otherwise, I want to see what the official explanation of why do they show this number. Of course, it could be pre-programmed, but I want to see them tell us that we pre-programmed it to 9.8 meters squared, so our thing doesn't collapse, our physics calculation doesn't collapse.
Right.
That's what's going on. Like, I don't fucking get it. It broke the whole thing. I couldn't believe it when I saw it.
I need to look.
I don't think this guy's too bad, except for his heavily pushing that the Earth is moving up, based on what, water bottle.
I think this part we already saw, the nacho ketchup part. Yeah, okay.
I don't know, man. They're kind of like loose.
Yeah, we already saw this part here. And I got Dell here, I'll play that later.
Gatekeepers.
Gatekeepers. We're all just a bunch of gatekeepers. Um, it's pretty funny to hear other people talk about it. Like, yeah, I understand it. But if you drop an accelerometer, it reads an acceleration down. Like, what? No, you don't. Clearly, you don't understand, or you wouldn't have made that statement. Um, but okay, whatever you want to tell yourself. So this next vid is me going in on the two different Flat Earth societies. Because he keeps bringing up Flat Earth Society, and I just need to do a mini, like I haven't even scratched the surface of what's all here with the whole Flat Earth Society. But when you Google it, the first one that pops up is, to me, the fake CIA one that was made to, in my opinion, distract away from the original, the one that actually has the good information, the one that actually has a community in their forums, posting and engaging and having real discussions and pointing out actual demonstrations and experiments and all that stuff. So I just think it's funny that when you look, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The six, the number 6. It's the sixth one down is the one that, you know, I think was the original one, the one that actually has good information, the one that still has upward earth stuff in it. The other one, everyone's been saying like, oh, Flat Earth Society took down the rising earth stuff, and that's not true. The original one didn't take it down. They go into detail as to why people believe it, versus the fake one, the one that pushes Eric Dubé, or not Eric Dubé, the one that pushes Mark Sargent and all these, shilly people, and actually charge money, $12 to be a friend of the Flat Earth Society. I mean, you can become like a really basic low level member for free, but they have options to take money from you, just like all of the other chilly Flat Earth YouTubers. Versus the other one doesn't ask for donations, doesn't talk about doing um, gyroscope experiments and needing thousands of dollars from the community to do bunk demonstrations and bunk stuff. So, um, yeah, I'll just play this. I'm just going back and forth between. So this is the page of the first one when you Google it. This is the first one that pops up. And it's like, you know, just talking about there. Here's the friend of the Flat Earth Society, $12, becoming a friend, whatever the fuck that means. Um, you get a medallion. Oh, nonprofit they claim to be. These are the books. Oh, and what's funny is like that book isn't even listed in here, the pamphlet that what's his name was talking about, that GM was talking about. It's not even listed in their books, the PDFs that they do have. They do have King's Dethroned, but another thing about King's Dethroned that made me laugh, I think it's in here somewhere, is that he claims at the end of the book, like, oh, these people don't know how the stars move, the but the guy who wrote, just Gerard guy knows how the stars move, and he's gonna put that in his next book, but the next book never came out. So that made me laugh also. Just the fact that, oh yeah, hey, we're gonna come out with a second book explaining how it all works, and it just never happened. see, keep going. So these are the few books that they do have, which isn't too many. I'd say maybe like 7 or 8 or whatever. Anthony Tony isn't there when I searched for it. They both kind of have the same story as far as, Samuel Shenton died in 1971. Um, and Charles K. Johnson created the International Flat Earth Society of America. After inheriting part of Shenton's library, he was able to raise membership to 3,000 people. Johnson dispersed newsletters, flyers, and other media to the public upon request. However, by 1980, the FES fell to 200 members. A house fire and death of Johnson's wife further afflicted the FES in America. Johnson died on March 19, 2021. The society was no longer accepting or taking in new members. However, by the 1980, the FES fell to 200 members. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I think I put that in twice. Sorry. But if you look at Flat Earth Society copyright 2016, that's the time, trademarked. And this is on the fake, what I think is the fake page, the page that's full of agents and um bullshit, and took down the upward earth stuff, and even their explanation of the upward earth stuff is sus. So here's 2016. So the same year that this was Flat Earth Society, where everyone's going, "Oh, Flat Earth Society is, controlled opposition." They're posting stuff promoting Sargent, not promoting any of the other people, but mainly. So in my opinion, this was started by the I used to call them Battle of the Lodges. So, I think that Sargent is one lodge, maybe he's the Blue Lodge, and then Dubay is just another lodge, and then, Powerland was part of a different lodge. And this whole thing is just, Battle of the Lodges. And I just think it's funny that here's promotions for him, and there really isn't much content on here at all. Like the last stuff, like when I clicked on their forums, like 2016, like that clearly it's not active. But this is the first thing that people see when they type in Flat Earth Society or Flat Earth whatever. This is what they get taken to, and it's all, rapper, shilly bullshit. And then here's the one that I think is actually the real one, that actually has good information and has active forums and isn't pushing. Like, look at this is posted February 27, 2025. Your data is at risk if you're using this app. Like, if they worked for Weiss, they wouldn't be talking shit on Weiss's app. Like, like so, and all of like even like channels that don't have to do with flat Earth clearly work for Weiss, because I see ads in like that lunch break guy, the guy who talks about like Tartaria stuff and like the buildings and whatever. He runs ads, obviously paid ads for Weiss's app. Um, but Flat Earth Society, they're so shilly, but yet they're warning people not to use the app, and there's a whole, you know, chain of conversation going on about it. Um, if you want to read it and whatever, but this is from Dearth. Basically, any data of yours is stored, email, location, password, age, etc. is stored as safely in waste paper basket. No kidding. Anyone with some knowledge of software construction can download the app, read from where your data is stored, and go read it for themselves. You protected your data with a password doesn't help. Your password is stored in plain text, readable to anyone who can read. Um, and then somebody else says some stuff that, oops, sorry. Um, these people are known like within the community for scamming people on stuff, so I just think that it's important that we should you know, the fact that he's, or not he's, but that this site actually lets this stuff be said tells me a lot more about them than, you know, they're clearly not on the same team as Weiss, otherwise they wouldn't be allowing this to be on their page. Weiss wouldn't allow it, you know. So Tom Bishop, that's the guy who he makes a lot of these um really good posts on here. I think he's, I don't know if he's like the head guy or whatever, but it doesn't actually matter how insecure an application is. If you're knowingly employing methods to access passwords or data, you know you should not be looking at. This isn't smart to publicize this and how it works. Somebody posted in here that they think that Weiss should be sued over this, you know. There's a lot of back and forth about it, but I think that oops, I meant to move that, sorry. But I do want to do more research on this Tom Bishop guy, but so far everything that he's been saying, all the stuff that I've read from him in here, it seems to be spot on. So what was the next part? Sorry. Okay, so here's other observations from the website, aerial footage from Chicago. I just signed up for this yesterday, so I'm still, some of the stuff is locked for me until I think that I'm able to get accepted or whatever. I'm officially a shill. I've joined the Flat Earth Society, guys. I signed up. Just because there's locked stuff and I can't comment on stuff because I'm not part of the whatever. So, um, but yeah, somebody posted a love song, a challenge for McToon, a new line of sight, sea level, signal transmission record, NASA's lost 1966, quantum break technology, new photos of the moon suggest flat Earth, NASA going nowhere. Like, there's a bunch of stuff, like, for everything to be, um, for everything to be labeled as like these people are shills, but you know what? Oh my gosh, I didn't see this. Dave Weiss. I can't click on it because it's a video that I recorded, but they did. But then again, this is posted by this person, so I mean anybody can come in and post stuff in here. So somebody posted whatever a Weiss video, but it's not. I mean, the guy who runs the site posted not to get the app, so you know, I mean, at least it's good to see that they don't, you know, I mean, I don't know if they do. I haven't been in it long enough, but they don't seem to be censoring. It's not like they deleted that. They probably are like, yeah, post whatever you want. I don't care, you know. That's what the vibe that I'm getting off of it. But it's funny because I didn't even look for this, but I just happened to see this Leo Ferrari's Flat Earth Society, June 4th, 2021. Um, so, you know, by what's his name? GM standards. Tom shouldn't be a shill because he actually talks about Leo Ferrari. Because apparently anybody who doesn't talk about him isn't real or something. I don't know. But yeah, I mean anybody that's into this kind of stuff, this is there's so many topics within this that are just um really interesting to me, and there's a lot of links to um like when the whole upward Earth stuff gets brought up. Um, the thing that I didn't like about the CIA run Flat Earth Society page, the .org one, they say no, it's just a misconception, it's not true. But they don't say why, they don't say so this is all about Ferrari stuff. I don't care about like, but basically, you know, if GM cares about the Ferrari guy so much, let him um go and read up on it if he wants to or whatever. I don't personally care about some dude, some shills from the 90s that put out a bunch of bogus stuff, hit pieces against flat Earth. I don't know why he's telling people to go look into that like that. Like you're getting any kind of education or knowledge from that. Like, doesn't really make any sense to me. Samuel Shenton with the, I don't know, man, that's Masonic hand thing right there. Shill. Just joking. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so this was, I think this was the FE Society, the .org one where he, or maybe not. I can't remember which one this was, but whatever. They both have some pretty similar beginner stories. And this one talks about, like, I don't see anything about Canada in here. He says that, like, the Flat Earth Society was, like, a Canadian or maybe the Canadian version, but, like, so far the two websites that I've seen, like, don't, there was one guy on the shilly.org site that's from Canada, but now he lives in the US, so I don't know if, like, you know, but it looks like this was Zion, Illinois, where Christian Catholic Church founder John Alexander promoted flat Earth theory, um, died in 1942, and yeah, became less popular into the 50s, and then formally founded by 1956 by Samuel Shenton, the Royal Astronomical Society, which I hear people talk about all the time, but he died in 71, and uh, they basically like both have like mirrored beginner stories, so I could see why it would be confusing for people like, okay, which one is the real one, which one is the fake one, but to me, it's pretty obvious if you just look through each website and see what they're claiming and the stuff that they're saying. This is from the .org site. Um, none of the people that they have posted that's like their people. They don't have pictures for any of them, and I don't know, they just kind of seem like, and I'm actually going to do this, I'm going to contact them and try to get an interview or something, maybe with them, or like over the phone or something, because it says to contact us. So these are the questions, the frequently asked questions for the first one that pops up. Are you serious? Are you a controlled opposition? It's flat connected to religion. Oh, that just made me laugh. So this is what it says from the .org site, the first one that pops up. Is the Earth accelerating upwards? No, this is popular theory among some small groups to explain gravity, but it is, so this is probably where GM got his like gravity and accelerating like whatever thing. But when you look up if an accelerometer proves gravity, even the mainstream says no, it does not. So that doesn't even make any sense. But it's problematic at best. The Earth is stationary. We are not whizzing in space. So it doesn't go into any details or it lists any resources or anything when discussing when responding to that. Does gravity pull things? Oops, hold on. Go back a tiny bit. Doesn't gravity pull things into a sphere? Actually, it can show that an infinite plane would be a more stable form of gravity to pull things into. I thought gravity doesn't exist. What the fuck? As mentioned above, though, sphere Earth gravity is a lie. So, like, okay, 1 second you're saying it's a lie, the next second you're saying infinite plane. The Earth is also affected by a mass of both objects. Bowling ball exerts the same magnitude of gravitational force on Earth as the Earth to the bowling ball, but in the opposite direction. We do not see the Earth accelerating upwards because the Earth is considerably more massive than a bowling ball. Okay. Once again, he's talking about gravity, but it supposedly doesn't exist. The Earth is considerably more massive than a bowling ball, while Earth accelerates downward by 9.8 meters squared. The bowling ball can only accelerate Earth upward by 1.6 E-23 meters squared, practically meaningless. The same thing also happens between the feather and the Earth. So now this is what the Flat Earth Society the one that I don't think are shills, when you look up general physics and you click on universal acceleration, like there's all these things to click on. There's equivalence principle. There's, um, you know, evidence for universal acceleration, variations in gravity, gravitational time dilation. Um, sorry, that beeping is probably annoying. Going too fast for myself. I can't read it all. Variations in gravity, gravitational time dilation, and it goes in to explain, like, the flat Earth side of things and how we interpret stuff. Like for anybody who's new at this and wants to like look into this, this is such a great like place. I wish I would have known that this existed. Like, I believed all the hype about it being bullshit and about it being um, nonsense for the longest time that I never even went and like looked at the site. So I don't know how long this stuff has been up here or whatever, but like there's some really interesting, you know, links in here and um, they explain the Michelson Morley, Sagnac, Aries failure, time dilation by latitude, aviation, Cold pendulum, Coriolis effect, ring laser gyroscope, celestial mechanics. Like, I don't see anything even close to this on the .org page, with this amount um, of links and explanations and all that stuff. So here's what they say about, about accelerating Earth. Um, According to the model of the universal accelerator, the Earth is accelerating upwards. We are pinned to the surface of the Earth as a mechanical function of this acceleration. This is what creates gravity as experienced on Earth, in quotes. You see, if you're going to talk about gravity, put quotes around it so, like, it's obvious that, like, you're not, like, pushing gravity shit. There are numerous pieces of evidence that Earth is accelerating upwards. One of the primary proofs for the universal accelerator is the fact that bodies fall without inertial resistance. This is an unexplained coincidence that inertial mass is exactly equal to gravitational mass. This coincidence has been called one of the deepest unsolved mysteries that exist in fundamental physics, and is a question to which has vexed science for hundreds of years. Not only is it a conundrum that inertial mass laws should equal out for gravitational mass, but the strong form of the equivalence principle declares that all laws of physics are the same. Why does the physics of gravity behave exactly as if the Earth were accelerating upwards? And Universal Accelerator answers this long-standing mystery, which has baffled generations of scientists by posting that the Earth is accelerating upwards. Other pieces of evidence from the fact that despite great effort, the mechanism for gravity has not been discovered, the point that the current theories of gravity cannot explain much. Vertical light velocity experiments to empirical proofs. And then there's a whole bunch of links down here. Inertial mass, exactly, whatever, PBS equivalence principle, new science. So there's just, there's tons of shit here, like Pound-Rebka experiment, redshift, like all of this stuff that we've talked about. Not all of this we've talked about, but you know, like we need to go through all of this and um, really do deep dives on this stuff because, like the Doppler radar, not Josh, sorry, Jason wants to do, get a Doppler radar and start doing his own demonstrations on different stuff. So I mean, there's a lot here. And to just like wave this stuff off like, oh, these are just nothing but a bunch of shills. Like, I don't see, excuse me, sorry. I don't see these guys um, from the .org giving any kind of backstory on why people, think that it's upward accelerating. They just delete it from their website, and then Dell and all of them are misrepresenting it too by saying that they took stuff off of their website when it's not even the original website. Um, it's just very shady. But yeah, here's more stuff. And you could just keep going and going. Here's stuff about light bending and double slit experiments, and there's does light travel in curved paths? It's just a bunch of stuff. Oh yeah, this was good that I didn't see this from douchebag, but we're gonna
actually a
play this.
movement now, a flat Earth society, and I get a lot of problems on Twitter with them. They say that I'm being paid vast sums of money by NASA to claim that the Earth is spherical, and I say yes, I am. I get millions of dollars a year. It's wonderful. That's why I can stay at Raffles, and they get very annoyed. But the point is that, so you could say the Earth is flat, right? The problem is though that and there's an interesting thing. They make a very interesting argument. They say they think that gravity that we feel is because the Earth is a flat Earth is accelerating through the universe. Now that's actually right. Right, as I said, Einstein's theory is that what we're feeling now, we're being pressed into our chairs because the ground is accelerating. The Earth isn't flat though. Space and time are curved, and it's quite a feat of imagination that you need to do some general relativity to work out how can it all be accelerating and yet the Earth stays spherical. And it's one of the things you have to understand general relativity. The thing is that bit's right. So they're right. It's called the equivalence principle. They're bang on. But the thing is that then to go from that to try and have a flat Earth causes problems with Newton's laws and with Einstein's theory and with all the things that we know about formation of structure in the universe. So the rest of it unravels. And that's what you tend to find from people who have strange ideas. They can convince themselves of one bit of it. And they may well be right. But the moment you start, the power of science is that you build a consistent view based on lots of independent measurements. So that's another long answer.
Okay, so you got the shills admitting that they're freaking NASA shills, which is pretty funny. So what is this? I think I reposted this. This is just like the history again, Flat Earth News. Sorry, I just like recorded going through. Oh, so this is from Wiki. It's funny how much they like go into the drama of like Flat Earth as far as not quite here, but in a second. Like there's quite a few different places. I guess I didn't even know that they since 2004 like they've had different like BBC specials talking about it, and so shoot, according to um GM standards, like that should be that should mean that flat Earth is a psyop, you know, because all of this stuff you know, uh, has been being talked about. Hold on, let me find what the part. Hold on. Bear with me. I'm trying to. Oh yeah, here's where Wikipedia talks about Ferrari was an expert. Well, in or in quotes. So even flatter even not even flat earth wiki, this is just the normal wiki page. This isn't even like either flat earth society. This is just when you Google flat earth. Ferrari was interviewed as an expert in the 1990 flat earth mockumentary In Search of the Edge. Ferrari is outed as a globurous, whatever, like a nuanced word for someone who believes in Earth is spherical. The real intent of the film, which is part funded by Ontario Arts Council and National Film Board of Canada, was to promote school children's critical thinking and media literacy by attempting to prove in a convincing fashion something everyone knows to be false. So even Wikipedia knows that that was bullshit. So why should we have to watch this again, GM? Like, why is that important? I mean, I guess, like, if you want to waste 20 minutes of your day. But there, that goes into like, okay, if you want to waste your time watching old mockumentaries on flat Earth, go for it. I personally don't think that every flat earther, you're not a real flat earther unless you watch a mockumentary from the 90s about it or read some, religious book pamphlet from 1918 or, anything. So it goes into like all of our claims, all of this stuff. So let's see what else I have in here. They have all of the drama from like, behind the curve and this and Mark Sargent and everyone's a shill. It's just like scripted, everything. It's just kind of crazy. To read through it all. I'm not gonna read it all here, but you tend not to trust things. Yeah, of course. Especially after we get like behind the curve bullshit and um it goes into the Bible stuff. I think I'm pretty much done. I'm trying to remember what else I wanted to cover in here. They even talk about the shills in Wikipedia. Speakers may reference shills within the community. People purporting to expose the history or espouse the theory, but who in fact belong to some deep state counterintelligence program aimed at making the movement seem laughable. Like, I don't know. It's just funny. Social experiments. We're just one big flat Earth is just one big social experiment. So, right. Oh, this was what it was. Okay, so as I was looking, I saw this from 2016, I think. 2017. Wiki went down. Google will redirect towards primary index. The wiki has been hacked. So I don't know. I just think Flatter Society, Wiki, this stage could be justified to hide Wiki from members. So that's pretty much what I'm thinking happened in 2016, 2017. The Flatter Society, the original, got hacked, and then they started a new one, and that they want to try and redirect people away from. Oh, are you there? Are you trying to say something? Hello. Sounds like I hear something in the background. Sorry. I thought Jason jumped back in. What's
No,
that?
I didn't mean to come off mute. Sorry.
No worries. I just thought maybe you were trying to say something. Um, so the wiki got hacked. I think that that's part of why, um, or just kind of evidence leaning towards, oh yeah, they just started a new one that happens to have a bunch of disinfo and not any good references or good anything. So when noobs go check it out, they're like unimpressed. But if you go to the actual wiki page from the real Flat Earth Society, there's quite a lot of information there, and you know, going dating, and also, this is supposedly stuff that's been written about Earth being flat long before, 1918 or whatever. Um, you can believe it or not, but Polyasia, Indonesia, oceanic mythology. I know the Jains believe that the Earth was flat, supposedly. I mean, yeah, I guess like there's all this, these books being quoted, like, listed, so it makes me think that it's real, but they could just be deceiving us. And 1819 was the first ever written thing, like GM says, about flat Earth, so you better memorize it, even though it's all about religion. um, Egyptian mythology, Hinduism, Jain, Mount Meru. And even on Flat Earth, Society's page, it does mention Buddhism, but doesn't say anything about the shape of the Earth. It just says that they believe in Mount Meru. Yeah, Buddhism also holds belief in Mount Meru. Oh, this was the clip from, or the thing that stood out to me from King's Dethroned. Clearly demonstrated the fact that Einstein's theory is false. The real cause of displacement of these stars from their true position is known to the author and will be explained in a book sequel to this work, but he does not consider that explanation necessary to the present discussion. Einstein's theory is disproved, alternative, or no alternative. So I just think that's funny that, like, the gatekeeper, the anonymous gatekeeper. Oh no, wait, this isn't the anonymous one. Sorry, this is the So this one's not anonymous. So still, it's funny that the author says at the end that they're gonna come out with a part two and then never do. So whatever happened to that, all that information just die with him. His, knowledge of how the stars moved from their true positions. Like, we'll never know. Um, And this is where it talks about how light doesn't curve. And yeah, once again, the real Flat Earth Society page does talk about light bending and, lists a bunch of demonstrations and experiments, things that are repeatable. So there's really no reason why, like, none of this kind of stuff is posted on the .org. But I don't know. I mean, if anybody out there, like, wants to look at this and, you know, if this interests you, if Flat Earth interests you and all of these things interest you, I think this is a really good resource and a really good page to check all this stuff out. I don't care if people claim, oh, they're shills, whatever. Like, I look at actions over what other shills tell me about the supposed shills. Like, if all of these people who have been asking for money, scamming the community, putting out false information, playing us like a fiddle, are all agreeing that Flat Earth Society is, controlled opposition. But then when I go look for myself and they're actually sharing good information and having real discussions, it makes me think the opposite, you know? But yeah, make up your own mind. I'm not getting paid by these people. I know it seems like I just did a whole video on it, but um, another thing that I don't know if I should bring this up, Jason, or not, but the conversation with Alan, um, still haven't heard back from him. I sent him Jason's hammer from last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was that we did that video. That was really good, and well, I thought was really good, at least really interesting. And he blocked Jason, so there's no conversation going on. And I wanted him to see Jason's hammer thing, so I sent it to him. This was our first conversation on Discord, and it actually went surprisingly better than I thought it was gonna go. I thought I was gonna get blocked and banned immediately as well, but I just sent him those links and said, you should check these out. It's right up your alley, sort of thing. And he says, with as much respect as possible, I'll tell you what I told the other guy, which is Jason, which he was totally respectful. I mean, we read all of the interactions between the two of them in the last video, and like Jason was totally nice to him. There was nothing like, rude or any reason to block somebody, in my opinion, to boot them from the Discord, but apparently, he was triggered, so whatever. In order Earth to produce 9.8 meters squared, what's measured, you have to say the Earth is non-inertial frame accelerating at the same rate. Inertial frames don't produce inertial forces. When asked to substantiate the Earth as a non-inertial frame, no evidence was given. I gave multiple examples of how it can be demonstrated through dynamics. How can it be demonstrated through dynamics if the Earth is at rest? Claiming the Earth is non-inertial with no evidence is fundamentally bankrupt, and anything derived from that logic as a causal mechanism is invalid on the face of it. All evidence given to me was measurement of objects moving relative to the lab frame. The evidence you'd need to substantiate Earth being a non-inertial frame would be something like a body of water that's, I think he's going to bring up Newton's bucket like he does every time, would be something like a body of water that's convex due to the acceleration, linear variant of Newton's bucket. That would show that you're making the wrong prediction. Otherwise, you guys are just fucking around. The same as mainstream physics, asserting causal mechanism based off of kinematics like you got the whole dang thing figured out. Very Royal Society-esque of you guys. Which is funny, he said that like it's an insult, but if like the Royal Society is the people that did this website, that's actually a really well done website, very informative, full of a bunch of good information and like good conversations, then that's a fucking compliment, you know? But Jason actually was like I was sending him screenshots of all of this, so this is pretty basically Jason responding through my account right now, and I'm just typing it, so I'm not trying to like take credit for the responses, because some of the responses are super brilliant, and I didn't come up with that shit, so just keeping it real, you know, give credit where it's due, right? Um, See, he said if you claim the Earth is moving at a constant velocity to produce the effect, making it appear as if the Earth is at rest, then you'd still be wrong because acceleration a time derivative of velocity, there is no change in velocity over time. There is no acceleration. If there is no acceleration, there is no inertial force. So we don't claim it's a constant. So he clearly still doesn't understand our position because he's saying that we're claiming it's a constant like Dell does, but we've tried to separate ourselves from Dell's constant velocity claim. So I think this is where my response comes in. I said, you don't even realize you're straw manning our argument because you couldn't even be bothered to watch the 4-minute video or the combo we had about it and your responses. So I know what you said to the other guy. Your response also shows me how unaware you are of our very public debates with Del William about constant versus accelerating. But FYI, Jason did a couple demonstrations, dynamics, not kinematics, showing it's an acceleration, not a constant, proving um, we're not an inertial frame. Similar to the Mount Rainier demonstration he did, I did add in this part myself because, you know, thought that was messed up that they didn't give him credit for the Mount Rainier demonstration. But I said similar to the Mount Rainier demonstration he did that you said, or that you used on Globebusters without giving credit where it's due. Do you deny the readings of an accelerometer? Do you believe an object can be moved without a force acting on it? Do you have any future plans to dynamically demonstrate how electrostatics can displace gas, liquid, solid simultaneously? Or will Jason have to continue to do demonstrations of other people's claims to debunk them? And he said, I got the argument covered for both ends. No, he doesn't. You'll see as the conversation goes how much he doesn't understand. I don't watch y'all debate nothing. Argument is fundamentally wrong on both accounts, no matter how you attempt to slice it. You provide you provide nothing new without first assuming your correctness first based on special pleading. Constant velocity can't create the measured effect, and acceleration isn't happening because objects at rest aren't experiencing any additional forces. You can't solve Newton's bucket with an Earth in motion. All your evidence is motion relative to the lab frame. Do you deny accelerometer? Doesn't explain Newton's bucket for you. You just glaze over that and ask me if I deny something else. I deny the correlation you're attempting to make to observed effects because inertial frames don't produce inertial forces unless you skip right past that with a special pleading. He's so annoying with like the way that he like, word salads that instead of just answering straight up the question. So I didn't want to go into Newton's bucket yet because I just wanted to stick with the topic. How do you know what's inertial or not? In Bennett's Hitchhiker, how is the car determined to be non-inertial? And he says, great question. I define an inertial frames as being stationary, non-rotating. In addition to that, the frame must satisfy the laws of motion and dynamics, which just means conservation laws and kinetic energy potential. The car is determined to be non-inertial because with respect to the stationary hiker, the wrong prediction for force is made, and that can be extended to energy conservation analysis too, but it's pretty straightforward since F equals ma. How do you know the wrong prediction, and I say, how do you know the wrong prediction of force? Or, no, sorry, how do you know it's the wrong prediction of force? How do you measure force? So this was the thing that Jason was kept trying to ask him in his conversation, and then he got booted and banned right for asking that. Sorry, I just skipped forward a tiny bit. Bear with me here. Oh, damn it. That's still not. Sorry, hold up. There we go. So, how do you measure force? Because none is felt. In addition to that, you can defer to Newton's bucket. Again, with Newton's bucket. I was trying not to get into Newton's bucket because it's so stupid that he keeps bringing it up and he's not thinking it through before saying it, but and we've already addressed it, like Jason already addressed it with him in his conversation, but he clearly isn't understanding. By comparing the frames, you can verify your prediction. That's why I mentioned convexity in a body of water at rest. We'd predict our velocity is zero in our Earth frame, but we'd see the water convex. Mainstream has the same issue, re Newton's bucket. So he keeps talking to us and arguing to us like we're globers. Like that's the most frustrating part is that we understand, like he's the one that's not understanding. Um, they've always known the implication. It's not how to rectify it with the philosophy that the Earth is in motion. They just move the rest frame to the stars, which makes no sense. But in the defense of the mainstream, they are super fond of using a fictitious observer in some other frame, so most overlook the simplicity of it. Um, And so, yeah, most overlook. So I said, you're overlooking that nobody claimed rotation. Why do you keep bringing up Newton's bucket without even listening to our vids explaining our stance on Newton's bucket specifically? We only claim linear acceleration up. When you're standing on the ground, a force is felt and measured with appropriate devices. It's dishonest to keep repeating our stance wrong. Sorry, I made this one moving. I didn't mean to. Without watching the vids first. Dropping the hammer, 4-minute vid I sent, is a dynamic analysis of our position comparable to Bennett's Hitchhiker. And he says, you're overlooking that nobody claimed rotation. I'm not. The car scenario is linear. That's what Bennett pointed out. Newton's bucket doesn't just apply to rotation, but linear acceleration. And not only that, but through dynamic analysis, you can falsify instances where F does equal MA. Did Jason happen to share with you the slides? The slides of the type of analysis I shared with him, but he may not have understood the point. If you're able to see this link, go to slides 21 through 26. Mainstream identifies an inertial frame as one in a constant velocity, but through dynamic analysis. And yes, he did share it with me, and we went over it in detail in the video if he had watched it. Mainstream identifies the inertial frame as one in a constant velocity, but through dynamic analysis, that frame fails to conserve energy and monument or make the correct kinetic energy prediction. That's why I stated that in any case, constant velocity or accelerating, Earth as a cause can be shown to be the cause Otherwise, you violate conservation or predict kinetic energy that isn't present in the system manifested in any real way. It's funny that he says in any real way. The analysis is twofold. One with from the frame of the object moving forward or towards the Earth, and one of the object as stationary moving towards the object. In your analysis, you only look at the relative motion because the object and the lab, um, object and lab, and conclude that the lab must be the cause. The analysis must include both frames. This is something mainstream will not do either, because the issue with conservation and kinetic energy becomes absurd. So they only stick to the F equals ma proof and discount all other violations of dynamic analysis. And it's funny how he just keeps saying dynamic. None of the shit that he's talking about is dynamic. It's all it's all like equations in math. So whatever, or kinetic, whatever you want to call it. And they um use the only instance where it makes the correct predictions as proof, it satisfies the laws of motion and dynamics. Newton's bucket experiment. Okay, so I just sent this to him, like Googled. Well, first actually I asked him, or I asked him a question, but just so you guys know, Newton's bucket experiment in its original form doesn't directly apply to linear acceleration in the same way it applies to rotational acceleration. Here's why. Focus on rotation. Newton's bucket experiment focuses on demonstrating the effects of rotational motion and the resulting centrifugal force, which causes the water surface to become concave, which is more along the lines of what Dell and William were trying to lean towards, that we didn't agree with. I'm not saying that it could or couldn't be possible. I don't think that it is, but that's just my opinion. And so before I sent that to him, I just asked him, how does linear acceleration apply to Newton's bucket? Show me a real world demonstration where water becomes convex by moving upward. You still haven't watched the 4-minute video I've linked 2 times. It would save us a lot of time if you would just please watch it. You never answered, how do you measure force? He did share the slides, and we went over them in detail in the vid I sent of us discussing it. Like, please just watch the video. How does linear acceleration apply to Newton's bucket? Show me a real-world demonstration where water becomes convex by moving upwards. So he's quoting me. I will look for some examples. I'll be waiting a long time for that one. You still haven't watched the 4-minute video. Please watch it. I think he said I'll watch it before I respond next or something. I'll check it before I reply next, which he didn't, but whatever. And he still hasn't replied, and it's been a week, so I don't think he's going to. Dynamics says F equals ma, so I would look for an acceleration, pressure, etc. So once again, he doesn't give me an example of how to measure force. Like, I'm asking, how do you measure force? Like, what in the physical world dynamically would you do to measure a force? And his response is a freaking equation. Oh, jeez. And he doesn't give me nothing but dynamics says F equals ma, so I would look for an acceleration, pressure, etc. Like, fucking A, dude. He did share the slides, and we went over them in detail. Okay, I'll watch. Okay. He still doesn't watch. So then he actually does. I was really surprised to see this, and this actually makes me think, like, not like bad of Alan, like he's cool in my book because he admitted this, and not many people will, especially in, I mean, I know this was a private conversation or whatever, but he said, good catch on the water curving with linear upward acceleration. My brain was stuck on the rotational effect translating to the linear. The water would appear flat normal at rest, but there would be more pressure at the bottom than if it were at rest. I suppose a better metric would looking into the pressure gradient in bodies of water. You should feel heavier and heavier at the same time. So as we already covered, the video from Jimmy, who goes over that really well about, like clearly he's not understanding pressure gradients and water and all that, or otherwise he would, so maybe he should go rewind and watch that Jimmy part, because he explains it really well, that there's an acceleration. Haven't watched the videos yet, was just following up on the water bucket, which totally respectable. I said thanks for thinking about it more. A few months ago, I did my own Newton's bucket demonstration, even with me spinning the jar of water fast as fuck, first on a fan blade, and then from an old junk fan, and then attached to a string. It was barely making a concave surface, um, which is probably due to me using a pickle jar that was flat on the bottom, versus others online used a wine glass with a curved bottom, so the shape of the vessel does matter as well, I think, in my opinion at least. As far as feeling heavier and heavier with acceleration, that is what Dell's argument was. And Jason did a couple tests proving that that wasn't the case. Oops, pushed play before I was ready again. Sorry. Okay, so as far as feeling heavier and heavier with acceleration, that is what Dell's argument was, and Jason did a couple tests proving that wasn't the case. In my opinion, they go up high enough. I think 23 feet is what he said. Something to consider, RE, about absolute acceleration and velocity in the mainstream. They like to keep the facade that absolute acceleration and velocity can't be measured, and it must be relative to something. That's half true. All motion is relative to something. My assertion would be the lab frame, Earth, and the ether through the interferometry, GPS, timing intervals. Absolute velocity and acceleration are measured. They just say shit like it's measured with respect to the fixed stars. Like, once again, he's bringing in the stars. I'm like, bro. I said interferometry does measure motion. We don't deny ether, and that light has to propagate through something. We just don't see how it could be responsible for the apparent equal downward acceleration of all matter. Acceleration does seem to be absolute in that it doesn't need to be relative to anything to be measured, i.e., spring, accelerometer, scale, etc. Also, I do really appreciate you taking the time to respond. I know you're busy. And that's, I think, the last of that. I said also, as far as water pressure, we do measure more pressure the deeper you go, as well as the atmosphere being less the higher you go. In my opinion, the only way to cause a pressure gradient would be an acceleration. And then he says the scenario would be like, imagine you're at the bottom of a pool 12 feet deep. You should feel more and more force at that depth, not just the pressure of whatever the volume of water. In that sense, the gradient is linear fixed. I said that's exactly what Jason's test proved wrong. Constant force equals constant acceleration. So the force would not grow and grow and grow at the same depth. Weight does not increase with a constant acceleration. Inertia is resistance to change in velocity. And I said, your conversation with Jesse the other day made me think of this correlation between how the Globers needed to use flat Earth baseline measurements for celestial objects to give them a globe, the same way Einstein had to use upward acceleration, i.e., the equivalence principle, for the gravity model to work. I don't think he responded after that. Yeah, no, he hasn't. And that's been a week or over a week or something, so who knows if any of that, if he'll respond or watch any of the stuff I asked him to watch over and over and over again. Sorry, that was really long, and I'm not very good reader. Probably sounded like a clear eyes guy. But yeah, I think I got everything out that I needed to get out. It's a really long video. Thanks for hanging in with me, and yeah, toodles. Have a good day.